So Pamela Anderson, she claims that Tim Allen flashed his penis at her while on set on the very first day of Home Improvement. That is a real thing.
She was what? Tool girl?
Yes. She is like, have you ever seen?
What exactly does this
mean? So she's like she was the eye candy. He had a television show about hardware in Home Improvement, and she was the eye candy on it with him and Al Borland.
I thought he was married. Why do we have eye candy?
Because he was married, but she was like there on the set. Like she would like display the tools, and she was part of the show, not his wife.
He wasn't just like he didn't own a hardware store. He like did a TV show about,
yeah,
right. And this was a few years after she was on the Playboy cover, right?
Yes,
that she got this role.
So it says, on the first day of filming, I walked out of my dressing room and Tim was in the hallway in his robe. He opened his robe and flashed me quickly, completely naked underneath. She alleged this in her memoir, Love Pamela, according to an excerpt obtained by Variety. He said it was only fair because he had seen me naked. Now we're even. I laughed uncomfortably, she continued. So first things first, I want to show you the absolute glorious work that some intern over at the New York Post was to find this photograph of her looking weirdly uncomfortable with him.
The green lines are very off here.
Him leaning in just the right amount. She's got her arms in like this. Like
his mouth is open. He
like it's the perfect
And then
photo.
she's like pursing her lips. She's clasping her hands together uncomfortably.
Dude.
Good work, New York Post. Thank you.
Who asked who to do this? Were you and Brett, or were you and Carter like high on sugar?
He made the crisis. I make everything other than the crisis party sound effects.
It's the end that's freaking me out.
Yes.
Maybe because I can't hear it that well.
It's a movie sound. It's from the movie.
It's difficult
from
to
the
tell.
First Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie when April O'Neil wakes up to see Splinter staring at her. So if you saw a giant rat staring at you, you'd be scared too.
So here's what Tim Allen told Variety after they published the excerpt.
Yes.
He said, "No, it never happened. I would never do such a thing." And now Pamela Anderson has expanded on what was told from her memoir because he denied the allegation and said, "This true story is just one of many surreal and uncomfortable situations I learned to navigate.
Yes.
My book goes into how it made me feel over the course of my life, and in this case, my career. I have no ill will toward Tim, but like the rest, it should never have happened." And she adds, "It was the first of many bizarre encounters where people felt they knew me enough to make absolute fools out of themselves.
There was this tweet.
I ended up making my career choice based on quality of life."
There was a tweet from Adrienne Curry. It says, "I never believe anyone by default, but when you share something that's over 20 years old after the fact that ties to financial gain, i.e. book sales,
Right. I mean, she's got this documentary that's coming out on Netflix, and then at the same time putting out this memoir called Love Pamela. And it's, in a way, sort of a response to the Hulu miniseries that came out about her and Tommy Lee last year.
Yeah.
So I understand her motivations for wanting to tell her side of things, but at the same time, how can you say, I have no ill will towards this person when you knew that publicizing this old situation would put them under fire
this
today?
unprovable situation that neither side can prove,
Impossible to
only
prove
you
or
will benefit
disprove.
from. Except for now, I guess maybe his response should be he writes his own memoir, and his is like, actually, it was her who flashed me. Neither side can prove that the other one happened.
No, but that's
Might
the
as
thing,
well
like,
both say it.
If he was, for whatever reason, also writing a memoir and he didn't mention her, everyone would be like, oh my gosh, he left her out on purpose. He's not acknowledging, Like, there's no winning for him here, right?
It also,
like, saying it didn't happen, they're like, okay, you would say that if it did happen, though. And, like, I just don't really understand. Like, it's so he said, she said, it's sort of dumb to take anyone's side, right? Like, it's not.
The man trafficked cocaine in the 70s. Anything could happen.
Or, like, if she's saying, like, one time we were on set and he came out of his dressing room and his road slipped and I saw his penis, like, that would be weird. I would be uncomfortable, but I don't think he did it to her on purpose. And has this been expanded into this thing where he's like trying to, you know what I mean? Like, how do we know what happened? And we never will. So
what is even the point of publicizing it in the first place other than salacious gossip?
Right. And if this is like the most salacious thing, like, I mean, doesn't he have sort of like a right wing or like conservative following? So it's like to make a golden boy that, like, you know, more conservative people like seem like a creep. Like it's
people
obviously
need more reasons
manipulative,
to hate
right?
Tim Allen.
I'm looking at this New York Post article, and underneath there's some that's like, Yeah, she details like how she tried to stab her babysitter. Like, there's obviously a lot of crazy things happening in this memoir. I don't know that like trying to dox Tim Allen or as like
I'm so tired of every single celebrity having a memoir, having a documentary, having a biopic. It's so narcissistic. Like as if anyone is all that curious about you.
It's just to make a little bit more money before they're completely irrelevant, yeah?
Just milking the public of what's like just you're wringing the sponge of every last cent that you can possibly get out of it.
I have no ill will now that I've slandered you in a way that I can't prove and you can't prove, but there's certainly going to be plenty of headlines.
Disingenuous.
Like, sure. It goes back to that whole thing. Hey, man, it was the 90s. Do I believe that it probably happened?
Maybe.
Probably. Do I believe that he meant ill towards her? No, it's even by her definition of what it is.
Celebrities being weirdos like they usually are.
It's like when they talk about John Barrowman when he was like, I used to flash people all the time when I was on Doctor Who and all these other shows, and he's like, well, it's because I'm gay. And like, what? What? Like,
or like there was a story about Chris Pratt on the set of Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
And like the characters are supposed to open the door and he in character is standing there naked. And so he's supposed to wear like whatever protective underwear they do to like, you know, and he tells the story where like, I guess Amy Poehler was doing it. She did so many takes, but like wasn't really having like the correct reaction. So then he decided on his own to take off the underwear. And like when she opened the door, the one that made the cut is like when she actually sees him and has this like very like, wait, what's happening reaction?
Yep.
And like the censors were like, never do that again, right? Like I understand what you're doing and we're gonna use the take, but like
they're rewarding the behavior anyway.
But like with this one, it's like we were in a hallway where no one could prove that we were or weren't, and this thing happened that he's obviously going to deny.
Yeah.
You know?
This is giving me the same vibes as the girl we were talking about earlier who is complaining, recording herself in the gym doing hip thrusts, by the way.
Yeah.
Complaining about a guy who is standing across the room looking at himself getting recorded in her phone screen. And she is complaining about how hard it is to be a woman at the gym and getting sexualized by all these men, while at the same time she runs an OnlyFans account. Like, Pamela Anderson was on the cover of Playboy when she was, what, like 21?
Well, that was his logic. It was like, look, I've seen you naked.
His
now
alleged logic.
His alleged logic is, look, I've seen you naked.
You gotta
now
love the emphasis that she was 23 when this happened as well. Like, you're still an adult.
Would it be worse if she was 22?
I don't understand the emphasis they're putting on that either.
See, I just don't think, like, do we actually believe this happened?
I believe it happened.
I don't think it's
totally
important if it happened or didn't happen. It's been so long.
Yeah.
If she says she feels no ill will, then why is it important enough to you to bring it up?
Because she makes more money this way.
It's also funny because I was thinking back, I think something similar happened with Hugh Jackman on the set of X-Men or X-Men 2, where like somebody stole his clothes during a set and he had to like run off set like basically naked or something. Like actors do this stuff all the time because you grow a certain connection or bond on a set because you work long hours together. The environment is very not nonchalant, but it's very far outside the realm of what would be considered normal professionalism because it's just not a normal work environment. So stuff like this is bound to happen, and it's not like Hollywood breeds the kindest of cultures anyways. So it's like, do I expect stuff like this to happen, especially in the 90s when our culture was different and people saw the world a different way? You know, there was never going to be a social media where he had to worry where 20 years from now this story would come out.
I want to raise the question, and I don't know if it has an answer definitively. If you have sold an image of you nude to the world publicly, have you forgone the right to certain privacy? Yeah. Right?
I mean, I think posing naked in a magazine is something I would never do, but also like that doesn't mean she asked to see other people's genitalia, right? She's okay with you seeing hers, but
she's making this memoir and this documentary saying like, all of these people have mistreated me in the industry because they just view me as a sex symbol, when she made herself a sex symbol.
Sure, like but that would be like being like, yeah, and then some guy broke into her house and stalked her. Like, but she kind of deserves it because she posed as a sex symbol. Like, the logic doesn't follow for me. I do think that like she has to be cognitive of what kind of attention she draws to herself because she made a certain professional choices, which probably opened the door for her to be on this TV show in the first place.
I mean, it clearly led to this, but it doesn't mean it was the right thing to do to lead to this. Like,
right.
Based on her explanation of what happened, that it played a role in this, but I don't think that she should be forced to. She did the pictorial and gave people the option to look at it.
Yeah.
She did not say, here, look at my photos. Like, I don't think that's
like,
really
she's
the
not
same
really
thing.
flashing the world
Yeah.
because you're opting to look at the magazine, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm not.
But I don't
I'm
feel
not
bad for her either.
equivocating
I don't feel bad for her either.
flashing to being on the cover of a magazine.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, like, she's making this documentary and this memoir with the selling point that she's telling her side of the story finally, because she's been victimized by the entertainment
By
industry.
Tim the Toolman Taylor.
Like, she's been objectified and sexualized so unfairly when it was her who opted into being in that role.
She seems to be more upset about the sex tape being leaked than about the Playboy stuff, obviously. She doesn't care as much about the Playboy stuff. That was on her terms. She made her choices. She's on Broadway now, too, I believe. So
she can't be stopped, that Pamela.
She can't be stopped, that Pamela. To me, it's frankly, it's a little bit annoying that she gets to now slander another dude's reputation with something that's entirely impossible to prove for the sake of book sales. In
Well,
which
again,
case,
like,
I have less.
I think she's also picking a specific target with Tim Allen.
Because he's a conservative, and he's an easy punching bag.
And he represented like a family man at this time.
Yeah.
Like, she is trying to be like, there are dark things, whatever. Whereas I'm sure lots of people did lots of terrible things to her because she posed, to your point, in Playboy, right?
Yeah.
Like, but why did we pick Tim Allen specifically for this pre-release publicity grab?
It's kind of like Madonna. Like when you diss on like Christianity, it's like, I was being bold and standing up for myself by pushing back on Christianity. She's like, I was being bold and pushing back against the system. Pushing back on Tim Allen? No. Like, maybe 20 years ago it would have been bold and brave to push back on Tim Allen when he had clout in the industry in the late 90s. Right? But is it really that bold to push?
She also had clout.
to push back on the guy whose biggest thing recently was Last Man Standing, which had to fight to survive because he got kicked off one network because they hate conservatives so much, and now he had his successful franchise relaunch of the Santa Claus TV show.
Also, like, if you have no ill will to this guy, like, why is this your go-to story?
Like, you don't, like, you've been in Playboy, you did Baywatch, and you don't have a Hasselhoff story you could lead with? I bet you she's got some doozies.
That's what
with
I'm saying.
Hasselhoff.
Like, I bet she has a ton. Why did we specifically pick Tim Allen? And it's pretty obvious.
Guys, that reminds me. If you're looking for something amazing to go watch, Brett recommends. We need a song. I need it for the soundboard. There is a masterpiece, and I believe it is on YouTube still to this day. You can, in fact, watch Baywatch Nights, where you can watch Baywatch meets the X-Files.
What?
Yes, where
Is it real?
David Hasselhoff fights the paranormal with Angie Harmon from Rizzoli and Isles. It is incredible. It was one of the most, it was so like we were talking earlier, it was so producer cocaine fever dream. Like, some dude was just zonked out of his brain, zooted to all hell, watching an episode of the X-Files, like, right as it got big. And they're like, we got David Hasselhoff, David Duchovny. It's like the same thing. They got the same name. Maybe we could do that. So somebody should go, if you haven't seen Baywatch Nights, everyone should go watch Baywatch Nights. I'm just saying.
Required watching from Brett.
It's required watching. Everyone should see it. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.